Welcome to the ICAPGen video, Level 3, the final project. Hi, my name is Diana Elder. I'm an accredited genealogist professional specializing in the Gulf South states. Today we're going to talk about the final project, what it is, its purpose, and how you can be successful in passing this final portion of the ICAPGen testing for accreditation. The first purpose that we'll talk about is how the testing distinguishes the professional level genealogist from the hobbyist and the amateur. It's going to test your ability in data analysis, research planning, methodology, and report writing. The very first step for accreditation is submitting the 4-generation project. Because this can be peer-reviewed, it's important to have a step where you have to create a written report that will be tested by an independent board. The final project is your opportunity to prove that you've mastered the skills needed to research on the professional level. It will also prove your expertise in producing high-quality research in a limited amount of time, recreating a real-world experience. An accredited genealogist researcher is expected to know the region of expertise thoroughly so that a client project could be completed within the client's expectation of time. The final project entails performing a research project from start to finish in the 4-hour allotted time of the test. In that time, you will need to do several things. You will need to create a research log, filling it out as you do the research. You will need to produce a pedigree chart, family group sheets for all people found in the research, a client report, and the photocopied or electronic documents found during research. We're going to talk about each of these elements, and I will give you ideas to how to prepare and what you should keep in mind as you're doing the final project. Remember that the elements of the final project can be created digitally on the provided computer or handwritten on the provided forms, or in any combination of digital and handwritten. You may prefer to fill out your research log by hand, but use the computer to write your report. Or you may use the computer to do your research log and the report, and then handwrite the pedigree chart and the family group sheets. Any combination is perfectly fine. At the end of the test, you do have to turn in all of your written notes and scrap paper and the research problem and instructions. This is to protect the integrity of the test. The first thing that you'll want to do when you sit down to begin your final project part of the test is to set your research objective. I've included some time frame ideas for you. Because this is a timed test, it's important to keep track of where you are in your 4 hours of the testing. So you'll want to take the first 5 to 10 minutes to set a really clear research objective. You're going to have a pedigree or a story problem provided, and you'll need to state the objective at the beginning of your report. You'll want to include the complete names of individuals that are given in the story problem. And you'll want to make sure you're using all the key identifiers, such as the birth, marriage, or death dates and places. Keep the objective narrow enough to be completed in 4 hours. Look for clues in the provided problem. ICAPGen is not trying to trick you with the final project. It should be fairly evident what you should be researching. It's important to keep track of what the objective is and not to go off on tangents. Here's an example of a pedigree problem. The client wants to identify Jesse's mother and siblings and then extend the maternal line. A preliminary survey has been completed on this pedigree and it is now time to continue research in original records. So if you were given this story problem and this pedigree, it would be up to you to create a research objective from the information that has been given, remembering to use the complete names and to be using the dates and places. Once you have created your research objective, the next step will be to create a research plan. I like to give about 15 minutes to this part of the process. The research plan is going to guide you through the entire project, so you'll want to make sure that you have spent some time thinking through this clearly and have this written out clearly at the beginning of your research report. We have an entire ICAPGen video titled Research Planning. Review that and think of that as you are working on projects, especially doing practice projects. I like to do the following in creating a research plan. Determine the 5 best sources for meeting the research objective, making sure you are using records appropriate for the area and time period. This should be evident because you are going to be testing in your area that you have become an expert in. So you should know which records to go to first. You will need to be specific, stating dates and places to be searched. For instance, if you're stating search marriage records of Kentucky, you want to be specific. Search marriage records for the years 1850 to 1880 in specific counties in Kentucky. Once you have created your objective and you have a solid research plan of at least 5 sources, and we recommend doing no more than 5, you may not even get past your first 2, and that's totally fine. Now it's time to actually conduct the research. And I have put an estimation of 1 to 2 hours for this portion of the test. It's up to you how much time you want to spend on researching and how much time you want to spend on writing, but I recommend 1 to 2 hours at the most for your research. We have 2 excellent ICAPGen videos that can help you to learn more about what you can do as you're researching: documentation and source citations, and keeping a research log. One thing to note with conducting research is that you cannot use online family trees. Using them will result in failure of the test. So although it may be a temptation to get online and see what has already been found about the family, this is not the time to do that. You will be completing family information on the supplied pedigree chart and family group record as you research. Also, as you research, you will keep your research log with your source citations, including enough information to allow others to find the same information. You'll want to make sure you're using original sources when available. So if you are researching online and you're using an index, if the original source could have been found quickly and easily, you will need to make sure you did that. You will be turning in the electronic copy of all the documents that you find. So it's important as you come across the documents that support your research that you make an electronic copy of them. You'll be giving each a number and putting the corresponding number in the research log and research report. The final project culminates with a written client report. You will want to leave yourself 1 to 2 hours to write the report. Of course, you'll need to be watching your time, and if you've spent more time researching, you will have less time to write. On the flip side, if you have spent less time researching, you'll have more time to write. Some researchers like to write their client report as they are researching. This is why it's important to practice doing a project in the 4-hour time frame so that you can see what feels comfortable to you and how you work best. Regardless of how many hours you spend on each phase of the process, you will have only 4 hours for the complete final project. Make sure you leave enough time to write a quality client report. We have 3 ICAPGen videos that can help you: writing an effective research report, documentation and source citations, and model for a well-written proof. What are the elements that you will make sure that you include on the client report? First, you'll have your research objective. This should be placed at the beginning of the report. This will help the raters to know exactly what you wanted to find in the course of the research. Next, you will need to include some background information. This is the information known before beginning the research, and this would include parts from the story problem or the pedigree problem that you were given. Next, you will have your research plan, your list of 5 or more sources that are in priority order for the best results for the research. Then you'll have the body of the report. This is where you're going to show all the findings from the sources that you have searched. The body of the report will be the largest, and so you'll need to make sure that you're using something to organize the information. Use subtitles or subheadings to break up the narrative. This can be record types, it can be individuals, location, time period, etc. Use what makes sense for the research you have discovered and for the project that you were given. As you're discussing different record types, make sure that you explain the reasoning for using a record type. For example, probate records often name an individual spouse and children, providing evidence of kinship. If you are producing a report for a client project, you will want the client to understand why you took the time to search a certain record collection. And so giving a simple reason before discussing what you found in the record types is an excellent methodology to help the communication with the client, as well as to make sure that you understand what can be found in the record types. As you're researching, you're going to have negative searches. You'll want to include those negative searches as well as the positive searches. Your research log should have every negative search recorded. You'll be using source citations to prove each genealogical statement. Your source citations need to be complete enough that someone could follow your research and find the document. You don't need to worry about having perfect format for your source citations. If you have a source citation template, that can help you to remember all the different elements that you need for, say, a census citation or for a certificate citation. You'll be adding document numbers for each document found after the report is completed. I like to write the entire report, rearrange it as I feel makes the most sense, and when I'm finally happy with the report, then I will go through and add the document numbers. You'll need to make sure that you correlate the evidence. Present and analyze the evidence that supports your conclusion and explain the significance of key findings. You don't need to use the terms original source or derivative source or primary information for every single bit of evidence or source that you have found, but you'll need to use it if it makes a difference in understanding what you have found. So make sure you understand the terms of evidence analysis and that you know how to use them in the proper form when writing. Make sure that you are explaining to your client how significant things are. A client may not understand how important it was to find the father on a land record, and you'll need to explain the significance and the evidence that you are using. If you have conflicts in your research, and you will definitely have conflicts as all research does, you'll need to address the conflicting evidence. Don't just ignore it and hope that the raters will not have noticed it. Address it. Decide what would be the best fact based on the type of a record it is. And then as you are addressing your evidence, present your findings clearly. There are a lot of ways to make it interesting to see the evidence. Use bullet points or use a table, whatever makes things very, very clear. When you finish your report, you're going to have a summary or a conclusion. This is a chance for you to recap the research and form a good, solid conclusion for what you were able to find. Remember to address the objective and how it was reached. If you were not able to reach your objective, then you simply state that further research is needed. You summarize your research findings. The conclusion does not need to be cited, does not need to have source citations since you already cited all of your information previously. You'll just need to summarize everything here to remind the client or the reader Lead them through the process again in a simple fashion. You'll want to recommend future research that could be taken, and this can be placed either at the beginning or the end of the report. All of the sources that you could not research from the research plan need to be put into your future research suggestions. Be sure to state what is expected to be found in those sources so that the client would understand why they would need to either hire you again to search those, or if they wanted to perform the research themselves, what they could find. You may have found additional ideas for research as you were performing your searching, and you would want to recommend any additional sources that were uncovered during the research process. Perhaps you discovered a collateral relative, and you could suggest that the future research could follow their lives to see if they would have any bearing on the research problem. At the end of the final project, these are the things that you will need to turn in. You will be turning in your completed client report, your research log, the pedigree chart that you have filled out, all the family group sheets on which you recorded your information, and your documents that are numbered. These can be photocopied or electronic documents if you've downloaded them from different websites. You'll need to turn in all of your written notes and your scrap paper used, as well as the research problem and the instructions. So what are some things you can do to prepare for this level 3 test, the final project? The very first tip is to practice, practice, practice. A good idea is to create a research question from an online document such as a census or a will, and then do several full practice projects. Give yourself the entire 4 hours, create everything just as you would do during your test. If possible, do a practice project at the Family History Library if you'll be testing there, or the location where the test will be administered. Getting out of your comfort zone is going to help you to really recreate the testing experience. Know how to use a PC if that will be the testing computer. If you are a Mac user, it will throw you off if you have not used a PC before, and you don't want to have anything that's going to distract you from the actual research. You can print the Level 3 Final Project Grading Rubric from the Guide to Applying for an Accredited Genealogist Credential. The guide is found on the ICAPGen website. Once you have printed the rubric, at the end of your 4-hour testing period, you can evaluate your practice project and see how you have done according to all the various elements of the grading rubric. Once you've done that, make notes about your shortcomings and how to improve. An excellent help will be for you to create a checklist of all the elements that need to be included in your final project, and especially anything that might be forgotten based on your practice test. Go through the checklist 2 to 3 times throughout the writing process, and at the end of your final project, give yourself a few minutes to make sure that you have done everything on your list so that you will feel that you have completed everything that you have thought about and worried about throughout the preparation period. As I mentioned before, having a source citation template can greatly help you as you are working through your research. You would want to do source citations for the sources commonly used in your region. So if you are searching in the United States, you would want to have United States Census source citations. If you are working in a European country, then you would want to have templates for perhaps the baptism records or the civil registrations. So you will know, because you have focused so much on your region, what the common sources are, and have a template with those source citations. Have a research log template that you feel very comfortable using, and practice using it to quickly record your search information. You can also practice adding source analysis into the research log as sources are found. Then you can cut and paste that into the report. Perhaps when you're looking at a death certificate, you add right there that the informant was such and this was secondary information. It was an original source. Whatever will help you to write and perform your project quicker and more accurately. You can also create templates for census tables and then practice using them in reports to highlight research findings. You can make a report template to use to write the report with all of the various headings so that you don't forget different parts that you need to add to your report. As part of your preparation, you may want to consider using genealogical software. This can be used to record the family data and save the family group sheets and pedigree chart to a PDF file at the end of the project. This is not required. You can use paper and pencil to fill out the family group sheets and pedigree chart. If you do choose to use software, be sure that you're prepared with using whatever program it is that will be available to you. The Family History Library has Ancestral Quest, Legacy, and Roots Magic. If you are testing elsewhere, you will need to see if there is software loaded on that computer and be fluent with the use of that software. So, testing tips. What do you do the day of your test to ensure success? First of all, get a good night's sleep. Arrive early to the testing location. Eliminate any stressors that might come from getting caught in traffic, being late, not being able to find the room. So prepare ahead. What will you need to bring? Well, you can bring a flash drive with your digital files. All of those templates that you might have created for source citations or your report or tables, your research log, those can be on your flash drive. You'll also want to bring your research reference guides. These are the guides that you created to help you with the level 2 testing, and you will also want to have those available. You could have a quick reference guide where you put the most commonly used items into one section for easy retrieval. Perhaps this will have links to websites that you use commonly or record collections. It could have any helps that you use when researching. You can also bring printed material. You can bring a printed grading rubric and your printed checklist. You can also print your research reference guide and quick reference guide if desired. Many researchers bring both the digital copy and the printed copy, depending on their comfort level and what they may want to do in the course of the project. How would be easiest for them to refer to their information. You will be given a blank research log, a blank pedigree chart, and blank family group sheet, or multiple sheets. You may discover multiple families and need to fill out more than one family group sheet. Your genealogical software may be used to record the data and create a PDF of the group sheets and pedigree chart at the end of the project. If you're testing at the Family History Library, the software that's available is Roots Magic, Ancestral Quest, and Legacy. If you're testing elsewhere, then you will need to do your homework and figure out if there is software there that you can use. You will have a proctor who is assigned just to you for the entire 4 hours. They will be starting the clock. They will be helping you with anything you need throughout the course of the testing. So before the clock is even started, you have the opportunity to make sure you understand all of the instructions for the testing process. If at any time during the testing you need a break, the proctor will stop the clock and you can go walk around for a minute or get a drink, have a snack, whatever you need to help you test well. Another tip is to write out that objective and place it in front of the computer to keep focused. It's really easy in a stressful testing situation, or as researchers, we all know that it's really easy to get sidetracked with research, and you may get going off on a collateral line and never get back to your original objective. in which case you would probably fail the test. The raters will be looking at your objective and how the research you did met that objective. So it's very important to make sure you set that objective at the beginning and then keep focused on it. One of the things you'll have to decide is what works best for you for researching versus writing. You can do a couple things. You can write the report as your research is conducted, or you can research and then start to write the report. Or you can find 2 or 3 sources beyond the census and then start writing. But a really key thing to keep in mind is not to wait too long to begin the report. You don't want to research for 3 hours, leaving yourself only 1 hour to write the report. Many researchers use the rule to write as long as you research, in which case maybe you would start writing after 2 hours of research. This is something that you will need to play around with during your 4-hour practice sessions and see what works the best for you. Another good tip is to keep a running list of future research suggestions as you conduct your research. You can keep that on a scrap piece of paper, or you could just have that at the very end of your report and type it in as you are going. This will save you time because as you think of it, you can go throw it into your list of future research at the end of your report. Work methodically and carefully. Take breaks to refocus your energy. After an hour or 2, you may need to just get up and move around, give yourself a little break, let your brain relax and kind of mull over what you're doing and see if you are focusing correctly on your objective or if you sidetracked and you need to pull yourself back. Make sure you're summarizing each section of the research. If you're discussing all the census records for an individual, once you've concluded the census research section, do a little conclusion summarizing what was found in the census records. Make solid conclusions or state that more research is needed. When you are completely finished, write a solid conclusion at the end of the report. Spend some good time on your conclusion. As far as citations, again, create the source citations in the research log using the citation template. Then it's a simple matter to copy and paste your citations into the report. Using the document number in place of the citation is fine for the handwritten forms. So let's say you have found a birth certificate, and that is document 1. Your citation in your research log for that birth certificate would have the number 1. In the report, the citation at the end of it would say document 1. In your research in the family group sheet, you could just put document 1, birth certificate. You wouldn't need to handwrite your complete source citation again there. So ICAPGen recognizes that this is limited time and you have that a little bit of flexibility there. Again, with your documents, it's good practice to download them to a folder on the flash drive used for testing as they are located. As you download your documents, be sure you're giving them a descriptive name so that when you go to give them the document number, it'll be easy to tell what they are. I recommend using the date, the record type, the name of individual, and the location. If you immediately rename each document, putting it into a folder, then at the end of your project, when you are ready to assemble those in order, it should be easy for you to find the document that you are including in the report. When the report is completed, that's when you will go through and add your document numbers after the source citations for the documents found. Because you are often rearranging your report, trying to get the order that makes the most sense, I don't recommend adding document numbers until the very end. For that reason, you'll want to wait till the end to also correlate all the document numbers on the report, the research log, and family group sheets. And then you will need to add the numbers to the beginning of each document's file name, if you still need to do that. So if you're confident that you're not going to rearrange, you could, as you are writing, just put in document 1 and add that to your document's file name as you're renaming it. But if you're not confident that you like the order that you have arranged your report in, you may want to wait till the end and then do the numbering of your documents. Again, this would be an excellent thing to practice with your 4-hour practice sessions to see what works best, to number things right as you find them or to wait till the end to number them. What is most important is that everything correlates, that the numbers among all of the elements of the project correlate. You'll need to proofread your report. Although this is a first draft, you won't want to have blatant errors in it. So allow a final 20-30 minutes at the end of your project. Look for a consistent voice. Are you making sure that everything is third person, or do you have some yous or I's in there that should be taken out? Do you have good grammar? Is your punctuation appropriate? Have you eliminated complete words or sentences so that things don't make sense? How about your analysis? Maybe have a little checklist. This could be part of your checklist to check for each of these things. Double check or triple check that all document numbers are correlated correctly. Double check that your data corresponds between the pedigree chart, family group records, and the report. It's easy to leave off an individual or a couple or a date. So give yourself time to make sure that everything that you have found is recorded on those important charts and in your report. So remember the goal for level 3. What is the reason that we're doing this? It is to show that you can conduct research and report it properly. Don't get overly concerned about identifying multiple generations. It's not how far the pedigree is extended that is being evaluated. You are being tested on how well you can conduct research and report it, not how far back you can go on a line. How will your project be rated? You will have 2 independent raters. They will both be accredited in your area, and they will be evaluating the exam using the grading rubric found on the ICAPGen website. There is no secret to what they will be rating. Just like you can rate yourself on your practice projects, they will be using the exact same rubric to rate your final project. Level 3, the final project. It strikes fear in many people's hearts, but if you have prepared and you have practiced, you can do it. If you have any questions, please reach out through the ICAPGen website and shoot me an email. I would be happy to help. I wrote about my accreditation journey on my blog, and if you're interested in knowing more, you can find me at familylocket.com. Thanks so much for listening, and best of luck on your final project.